let's get into the 13th tablet by the Lost Book of Enki here. In the third region, civilized mankind did not fully blossom. What to Inanna was entrusted, she neglected. Other domains not granted to her, in her heart she coveted. When from Enki, at the count of 1,000 years, kingship was taken away. Who could foresee the calamity by the end or the next millennium, and who could have prevented the disaster? That in less than a third of one shar, a calamity unknown would befall, who could foretell? By Inanna was the bitter end started. Marduk as Ra, tangled with destiny. So Marduk now becoming Ra, the rise of the Egyptian empire. Ninurta and Nergal delivered the unspeakable end with their own hands. That's interesting. If they delivered the unspeakable ends with their end with their own hands, why did the Assyrians have giant depictions of Nergal outside of their temples? That's kind of scary. Why was Inanna not satisfied with her granted domain? And why did she remain unforgiving to Marduk? Journeying between Enki and Arata, Inanna was restless and ungratified. For her beloved Dumuzi, she still mourned. Her love's unquenched desire remained. When she flew about in the sun rays, Dumuzi's image she saw shimmering and beckoning. In the nighttime, in dream visions, he appeared. I will return, he was saying. The glories of his domain in the lard of the land, it says lard. That's obviously a misprint because they said it was the land of the two narrows. So I'm not going to say it was the lard of the two narrows, but that's what it says here on my copy. So the lard of the two narrows. The glories of his domain in the land of the two narrows, to her he was promising. In the sacred precinct of Enki, a house for nighttime pleasure she established. To this Ging Unu young heroes, on the night of their weddings, she lured with sweet words. Long life, a blissful future to them, she promised. She imagined that they were her lover, Dumuzi. Each one in the morning in her bed was found dead. Uh-oh. This bitch is running some fucking Black Widow shit now, isn't she? Jesus fucking Christ, she mates and she kills. It was at that time that the hero, Banda, left for dead, returned alive to Enki. By the grace of Utu, of whose seed he was, did Banda return from the dead. A miracle, a miracle. Excited, Inanna shouted. My beloved Dumuzi came back to me. Now, wait a minute here. Back up just a second. Back up. What did we just read here? This bitch is going off talking about dreaming about Dumuzi, and this fool's coming in and visiting her in her dreams, right? She goes and lures in the Gigunu young heroes, young strapping young lads, has intercourse with them, closes her eyes and dreams she's getting pounded by Dumuzi, bangs all these guys. They all turn up dead in her bed the next day. And then the next thing you know, Dumuzi's coming back. So either one or two things are happening here. Either she's confused and she's been hitting the wacky tobacco a little bit too hard. And she's confused, and she thinks this fool is Dumuzi when he ain't. Or she's sucking the life force out of people and, bringing him back to life. This is bizarre. By the grace of Utu, of whose seed he was, did Banda from the dead return. A miracle, a miracle. Excited Inanna shouted, my beloved Dumuzi has come back to me. In her abode, Banda was bathed with a sash and a fringed cloak on him was fastened. Dumuzi, my beloved, she called him. Oh, yeah, see, she's confused. She thinks this fool is Dumuzi, and he's not. Uh-oh. To her bed with flowers bedecked, she lured him. When in the morning Banda was alive, with joy Inanna shouted, the power of not dying in my hands was placed. Immortality by me is granted. Then to call herself a goddess, Inanna decided. The power of immortality it implied. Nanar and Ningal, Inanna's parents, by her proclamation, were not pleased. Enlil and Ninurta, by Inanna's words, were disconcerted. Utu, her brother, was bemused. It is not possible to revive the dead, Enki and Anarshik said to each other. Well, see, that's funny because that's a lie. Because Enki sure knows that that's possible. That's Anunnaki technology. They have the technology to do that. But they also said that they were not going to grant that technology and that knowledge to mankind, you see. In the lands of Ki and Gi, the people praised their good fortunes. The gods are among us. Death they can abolish. So the people said to each other. On the throne of Unagi, Banda, his father, in Merkar, succeeded. Lugal, great man his title was. The goddess Ninsun of Enlil's seed took him to be her spouse. The hero Gilgamesh was their son. On the throne of Unagi, Lugal Banda followed. As the years passed and Gilgamesh grew older, of life and death to his mother Ninsum he spoke. About the death of his forebears. Though of Anunnaki descended, he wondered, do gods die, he asked his mother. Shall I too, though 2/3 divine, as a mortal over the wall climb? So to her he said, as long as on earth you abide, the death of an earthling will overwhelm you. As long as they stay on earth, they're dead, but if they go to another planet, they can live longer. You think the elite running the show today and running all this space program stuff don't know that, folks? But if to Nibiru you shall be taken, long life therein you will attain. To take Gilgamesh aloft and journey to Nibiru, Ninsun to Utu, the commander, appealed. Endlessly, Ninsun appealed to Utu. She pleaded day after day with him. Let Gilgamesh go to the landing place. Utu in the end agreed. To guide and protect him, Narsag a double of Gilgamesh fashioned. Just like that, huh? Just like that? Here, let me make you a clone real quick to protect you. Here you go. Yeah, we got a clone machine over here. Now that's interesting because to me that's what we see depicted in the Temple of Hathor at Dendera in Egypt. These giants standing next to regular Egyptians holding these big like vessels, these big long round cylindrical objects that are creating material plane objects. They show one depicting a snake with a lotus bud coming out of it, and then it becomes the uraeus. When you look at the relief down the line, they're showing how they can create genetic copies of anything, of any material creature. And to me, that's exactly what they're describing here. I mean, this guy just, Pop, here you go. To guide and protect you, we're fashion you a double. Here you go. It's a double of Ninarshag. Here, take it. It's yours. Enki do as by Enki created he was called. Enki-Du. Enki-Du. Of a womb he was not born. Blood was not in his veins. With the comrade Enki-Du Gilgamesh, Enki-Du traveled to the landing place with Gilgamesh. Utu oversaw his progress with oracles. At the entrance to the cedar forest, its fire-belching monster blocked their way. With trickery, they confused the monster and broke it to pieces. So there's some kind of, see, this is another interesting thing. There's fire-breathing dragons living back in these times. With the secret entrance to the tunnels of the Anunnaki they found, by the bull of heaven, a creature of Enlil, they were challenged with deathly snorts. So right there, again, that's what they've talked about. We've seen, this is where the stories of, things like the Pegasus and the Centaur and the Minotaur and all this stuff come from, is that not only were they doing genetic manipulations and stuff with existing humans and stuff like that, they were making all kinds of strange animals as well. And it's said that that Saddam Hussein had back engineered something like this, these crazy crab monster things, and that was what they were actually referring to when they were referring to weapons of mass destruction. Makes sense. I mean, that's right where, Christ, he was getting ready to rebuild Nebuchadnezzar's palace. It's the heart of the area we're talking about right here, folks. To the gates of Unag-Ki, the monster chased them. At the city's ramparts by Enki-Du, it was smitten. When Enlil heard this, he cried with agony. In the heavens of Anu, his wailing was heard. For in his heart, Enlil knew well. Bad indeed was the omen. For having slain the bull of heaven, to perish in waters, Enki-Du was punished. Gilgamesh, having by Ninsun and Utu been instructed of the slaying, was absolved. Still, seeking the long life of Nibiru, Gilgamesh was permitted to proceed to the place of the chariots by Utu. After many adventures in the land of Tilmun, he reached the fourth region. Through its subterranean tunnels, he proceeded. In a garden of precious stones, Zisudra, he met. The events of the deluge, Gilgamesh related to Zisudra. The secret of long living to Gilgamesh, he revealed. A plant in the garden's well was growing. Zisudra and his spouse said that it prevented them from getting old. Unique of all the plants on earth it was. By it, a man can regain full vigor. Man at old age is young again. That is the plant's name, Zisudra said to Gilgamesh. Man at old age is young again? Anybody know anything what that plant might be? We need to find some of that, don't we? Man at old age is young again. We need to get some more sleuths to figure that out. Anybody out there got any ideas? Figure out what fucking plant this is? Probably fucking wacky tobacco. It's probably marijuana. Man at old age is young again. Fuck yeah. Old Conjure fires up a joint. His arthritis ain't going to be hurting. That's for damn sure. This is the plant's name, Zisudra to Gilgamesh said, a gift to Enki. With Enlil's blessing on the Mount of Salvation, it was granted to us. When Zisudra and his spouse were asleep, Gilgamesh tied stones to his feet. He dived into the well, and he grasped and uprooted the plant of being young again. With the plant in his satchel through the tunnels, he hurried. To Unag-Ki he made his way. When he tired and was asleep, a snake was attracted by the plant's fragrance. The snake snatched the plant from the sleeping Gilgamesh and vanished with it. Oh, man, that's not symbolic, is it? He's asleep with the elixir for immortality, and the serpent rolls up and takes it. Womp, womp. Oh, no. Nothing symbolic there. Go back to sleep. Oh my God. That's totally a metaphor for the brotherhood of the snake, the brotherhood of the serpent. Mankind seeking to take this stuff in secret, but man himself wanting to keep this from man so he could gain total control. That about brings us up to date right there, doesn't it, Johnny? Thank you. In the morning, when he discovered his loss, Gilgamesh sat and wept. To Unag-Ki, empty-handed he returned. As a mortal therein he died. 7 more kings in Unag-Ki after Gilgamesh reigned. Then its kingship came to an end. Precisely when the count of 1,000 years was completed, it was. To Urim, the city of Nanar and Ningal, was kingship of the first region transferred. To all these matters that in the other regions were occurring, Marduk gave much heed. By Inanna's dreams and visions, to Dumuzi's domain she was alluding. Ra was very disturbed. To counteract Inanna's schemes of expansions, he was determined. And the matters of resurrection and immortality he found much to ponder. The thought of divine godship to him greatly appealed. To be a great god himself, he announced. By what to Gilgamesh in good measure an earthling was permitted, Ra was angered. But a clever way with the loyalty of kings and people, he deemed it to retain. If demigods are shown the gateway to immortality, then let this apply to the kings of my region. So did Marduk in the second region, by the name Ra, known to himself, say these words. Let the kings of my region of Neteru be offspring to Nibiru in an afterlife journey. So did Ra in his realm decree. The kings were taught how to build tombs facing eastward. Well, there you go. The kings were taught how to build tombs facing eastward. Duh. So he's giving them telling them how to journey to the afterlife, how to gain immortality. To the priest scribes, a long book he dictated. It described the afterlife journey in detail. Yeah, that's the Book of the Dead. There it is. Bam. How to reach the Duat. And the Duat was a book. Egyptian book, the place of the celestial boats in the book was told. How to there, by a stairway to heaven, journey to the imperishable planet. To partake of the plant of life and to drink with satiation the waters of youth. Of the coming of the gods to earth by Ra, the priests were taught. There he is, setting up the priest class. Gold is the splendor of life to them, he said. The flesh of the gods it is, to the kings, Ra said. To make expeditions to the Abzu and the lower domain to obtain gold, he instructed the kings. When by the force of weapons the kings of Ra did not conquer their lands, his brothers' realms he invaded. Their ire he caused to arise and grow. What is Marduk up to? The brothers asked each other, that he tramples over us. They appealed to their father Enki. To Ptah, his father Ra, did not listen. To capture all adjoining lands, the kings of Magan and Mohula Ra directed. To be the master of the 4 regions with his heart's plan. The earth is mine to rule, so adamantly to his father, he said. And the next part is now, this is the account of how Marduk Supreme himself declared and Babili built. So Marduk, that's amazing. So he sets up shop in Egypt as Ra, and then trots up back over to Mesopotamia and sets up Babylon, or Babilia as they refer to it here. That's amazing. So page 296, the top of 296, that means that, to me, that answers the entire question of the thesis that William Bramley put forward with his book, The Gods of Eden. His question when he started researching that book and trying to find out all the things that he subsequently found out was, the origins of war. Well, baby, I don't think it comes any more clear than that. We only know war because the people who set up the first civilizations on this earth embedded war into our genetic memory and into our DNA because they were warring with each other over who was going to rule parts of the earth. And I think it's still very much going on today. And the citizens and the regular people who don't have access to the higher knowledge of the gods and the priests are just pawns and cannon fodder. As much today and as much in the days of the Egyptians and the Sumerians as they are now. So if we now know what's been the cause of this for all these years, we can now say no more. We're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to kill each other anymore. We're not going to have wars anymore at the expense of these quote-unquote gods or wannabe gods and these bloodline people who think they're in charge now. This is the reason why the world is the way it is today and why we have the elite, the New World Order, and the Illuminati, this running stuff. It's all because of this and these people and what they brought to us here. And we have become the byproduct of an industrialist species. We're the byproduct of a race of peoples who fucked their planet up so bad with nuclear war and destruction and hierarchy of power and these hereditary dictatorships. They fucked it up so bad, they came down here to Earth, did some genetic tinkering with existing things, created us, and have come down here and set up shop and fuck things up here on this planet so their progeny, us, as in the macrocosm, so in the microcosm, could fuck it all up again the same way they did. And that's what this book was, these writings and these tablets were supposed to be. A historical record of the people who put us here for the children of mankind, the future of mankind, so that we know, oh my God, this is what God is here, and this is what we need to do, take steps to not allow any of this to happen anymore. This is why they've given you religion and not this. This is why they've given you the Bible and not this. This is why they've given you the Quran and not this. This is why they've given you the Torah and whatever else it may be and not this. Because religion could never be about setting yourself free, could it? No, it's got to be about control, and it's because it came from these people. I mean, this it's unbelievable. Now this is the account of how Marduk's supreme being himself declared and built Babili, and how Inanna, warrior kings commanding, made blood flow and allowed sacrileges. So see, now we're getting into how Inanna, through her greed, started bringing about the origins of blood sacrifice. Again, yet another thing that was introduced to us by these so-called extraterrestrial gods. After kingship to Urim and from Unagi was transferred, Nanar and Ningal smiled on the people. As his rank of 30 befitting as the god of the moon, Nanar was worshipped. As the count of the moon in the months of the year, 12 festivals each year he decreed. To each of the 12 great Anunnaki, a month and its festival were dedicated. Throughout the first region to the Anunnaki gods, great and lesser ones. Shrines and sanctuaries were built. The people could directly pray to their gods. Now see, that's where we start to see this changing around. Because even the Anunnaki themselves refer to the creator of all things, and they talk about how sometimes some of the things that happened to them could only have happened if they were decreed by the creator of all. So what we see here is not only that they are admitting that there is a creator of all things, but they're also admitting that they themselves are portraying themselves to the humans as being gods as well. So right there, that's a very, very important admission. Shrines and sanctuaries being built all over the world so that people could directly pray for their gods. Now, to me, this coinciding with the first occurrence of Inanna bringing blood sacrifice to humans is a very, very interesting thing. That's where we see direct evidence that blood worship, blood sacrifice, things like what the Mayans did and other groups and other tribes, and what we even see in warfare today, like we talked about last night with John D. and the macrobes, we start to see that these two things go hand in hand. The setting up of religion, the deifying of the Anunnaki, of these extraterrestrials as gods themselves, while at the same time also bringing about blood sacrifice. And this goes a long way towards trying to find out and really understanding where the origins of the elite, the New World Order, and the Illuminati really come from. And, the blood and think about Catholicism. You take in the blood of Christ, the body of Christ. That's blood ritual. That's the taking into the body. So where do you think that came from? That came from these people. In the first region, civilization from Enki spread to other neighboring lands. In the cities of man, local rulers were designated as righteous shepherds. Artisans and farmers, shepherds and weavers exchanged their products far and wide. Laws of justice were decreed. Contracts of trade and espousal and divorce were honored. In schools, the young ones studied. Scribes and hymns and wisdom they recorded. Abundance and happiness were in the lands, but quarrels and encroachments were also there. All the while, Inanna and her skyship roamed from land to land near the upper sea with the Utu. She frolicked. To the domain of her uncle Ishkur she went. Dudu, beloved, she called him. To the people who in the upper plain of the two rivers dwelt, Inanna took a liking. The sound of their tongue she found pleasant, and she learned to speak their language. By the name of the planet Lamu, which we know as Mars, in their tongue they called her Ishtar. And there again, another thing that some people have problems wrapping their mind around. Inanna, Ishtar, Columbia, Queen Semiramis, it's all the same thing. That's why Enki and Ea and Zeus and Quetzalcoatl, all these things are just different names for the same thing. Uruk, her city, Unagi they called. Dudu as Adad, in their language they pronounced, Adad. Sin, lord of oracles, her father they named. Urim, city, was by them was called Ur. That's where the ziggurat at Ur was built. So this is right there. This is definitely, as we know, the upper plain where the two rivers dwelt. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, between the land between two rivers, the city between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. That's where Inanna took to liking. And that's why we see, like Zohair sent us from Pakistan, those pictures. And Inanna, that's what that fucking alien pincher crab people thing coming out of that rock represents. And here it is. I mean, setting up that's so interesting to me that, the deification of gods and blood sacrifice all just happened to happen there in that area of the Middle East that is so famed in biblical lore. Shamash, bright sun in their tongue, they called Utu, and him too they worshipped. Enlil, by them Father Elil he was called, Father Elil. Nippur by them was Nibiru Ki. Ki Engi, land of the lofty watchers. Shamir in their language was named. Shamir, Shumer, Samaria. In Shamir, the first region, kingship between the cities was rotated. In the second region, Egypt, diversity was not permitted by Ra. He wished to reign alone in the region. The eldest of heaven, firstborn who was on earth, thus by the priest to be known he wanted. So there is Marduk, who has now become Ra. And where do you think Ra came from? Amen Ra. That's Ra's full name, Amen Ra. When you say amen, where do you think the origins of that was? When you say, every time you say amen, you are giving thanks to Ra or Marduk, the Anunnaki god. And what coincidentally enough did Amen Ra also bring in? Anybody? Monotheism. The basis of Judaism, the basis of Christianity, the basis of Islam. And boy, it just happened to be in that area in the Middle East. God, that's just a coincidence. Amen Ra was the founder of monotheism, the idea of one God and to worship one God alone. Oh, I mean, that is the proof. Only someone who wanted to be a God would do that, because you notice that in the Bible, it's always talking about plurals. Man was made in their image. Well, whose image? That's plural. So he wanted to make sure that the priests who would take over power after, I guess after these, there were no more of these Anunnakis left, but the priests, he wanted to make sure the priests knew that he was the firstborn and is the eldest person that is left that came from heaven. And what they refer to as heaven is their planet Nibiru. Isn't that something? All these years, all these Christians, oh, I hope when I die, I go to heaven. I hope when I die, I go to that alien planet. Your grandmama's not around with us anymore, son. She went to Nibiru. Yeah, it's going to be a long flight, but she's going to be all right, baby. She's not in pain anymore. Grandma went to Nibiru, baby. It's all right. Jesus. The foremost from the earliest times, so he decreed in the hymns to be called. Lord of eternity, he who everlastingness has made, presiding over all gods. Again, this is Marduk, Amen Ra, declaring this. The one who is without equal, the great solitary and sole one, the sole one, meaning I'm the only one, I'm it, don't worship anything but me, I'm the one God, you don't need anything else, I represent the other God because I am the Son of God. Well, the real God couldn't be here. His Holy Majesty, the big kahuna. So he sent me, and I'm his son, and I'm here to tell you all what you're going to have to do down here and how things are going to be. And if you don't follow that, you're going to go to hell and burn, boy. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Doesn't sound anything like Jesus, does it? Nah. Doesn't sound anything like any of the rest of these Messiah figures that have appeared all around the world in different names and different shapes. But that's it right there. Well, I'm the middleman. Yeah, I'm God's middleman. You can go through me and find eternal peace, but you can't, sure as fuck can't get it on your own. That's for damn sure. Don't think that, no. So Marduk, as Ra, did place himself above all other gods. Their powers and attributes to himself he assigned. So he started, this motherfucker, Big Nuts Marduk over here, starts going around. He's so arrogant. He's going around telling people, Well, yeah, there are other gods. And yeah, there is a God of gods and a creator of all things, but he gets his power. He gets his shit from me, son. You know, who do you think God's dope dealer is? Me. I sell him that coke. That's what he's saying. No. Well, yeah, there are other gods, but they get their power from me. That's real nice. As in Lil, I am for lordship and decrees, as Ninurta for the hoe and combat, as a dad for lightning and thunder, as Nanar for illuminating the light. As Utu, I am Shamash, as Nurgle over the lower world I reign. So he's basically saying he's taking on the jobs of all these other Anunnaki gods. As Gibble, the golden depths I know, whence copper and silver come I have found. As Ningazita numbers in their count, I command the heavens my glory bespeak. By these proclamations, the Anunnaki leaders were greatly alarmed. To their father Enki, the brothers of Marduk spoke. Nergal to Ninurta conveyed their concerns. What have you overpowered? What has overpowered you? Enki said to his son Marduk. Unheard of are your pretensions. The heavens my supremacy bespeak, Marduk answered his father Enki. The bull of heaven in Lil's constellation sign by his own offspring was slain. In the heavens, the age of the ram, my age is coming. Unmistakable the omens are. In his abode in Eridu, the circle of the 12 constellations, Enki examined. On the first day of the spring, the beginning of a year, sunrise was carefully observed. In the constellation stars of the bull was the sun that day rising. In Nibiru Ki and Urim, Enlil, and Nanar made the observations. In the lower world, where the instrument station had been, Ninurgal attested to the results. Still remote was the time of the ram, the age of the bull of Enlil it still was. Now that's interesting, because that's exactly the similar time period we're in now. And every time there is one of those ages on Earth where you're coming out of an old age and you're moving in closer to, because it happens over the course of, a very long time period to move through these ages. But as you're moving out of one and closer, it's getting closer and closer to a new age coming in, there starts to be conflicts all over the planet and all over society, in all from the top to the bottom, where the feelings and the ideas and the ways of the old age are at conflict of the new age that is coming in. And so during that period that can last for hundreds of years that we're in now and will continue to be in, I think, for the next 500 or 600 years, you're going to see great strife and cataclysm. That's exactly what's going on here. Because even though they were technically still in the age of the ram, the energy of the age of the bull was coming in. So Amun-Ra is, his bull nuts are fucking about to drop. He's walking around raging like a bull, right? And the energy is overtaking him. He's ready, he's ready to rule. He's ready to rule over the domain, but that energy that's taken over him is at odds with the fact that the energy of Enlil and the age of the ram is still very much there and still very much will be for a period of time. So, but that's interesting. So is that an explanation to maybe you and me? Is that what's going on now? Is the age of the last Anunnaki god and the next Anunnaki god, which may be Enki, coming into the age of Enki, as Zohar sent the email to us that we read last night? Could that be why all this stuff is happening? Very well could be. In his domains, Marduk did not relent in his assertions. By Nabu, he was assisted. To domains, he sent not his emissaries, but to the people that his time has come to announce. To Ningazita, the Anunnaki leaders appealed. How to the people to observe the skies to teach. In his wisdom, stone structures Ningazida devised. Ninurta and Ishkar helped to erect them. In the settled lands near and far, the people saw and were taught in the skies that the sun in the constellation of the bull was still rising. They showed to the people. With sorrow did Enki watch these ongoings, how fate had twisted the rightful order. He pondered. That's an interesting idea, isn't it? How fate had twisted the rightful order. And and that just goes to show that, like, that's a source of our misery. Because we make this, what we deem to be order and law and order, we make these laws, we make these things, but when fate and destiny and that thing overpowers those laws, we don't know how to handle that. And that's exactly what seems to be going on here. After the Anunnaki declared themselves as gods, they became dependent upon mankind's support. In the first region, the Anunnaki decided to unify the lands under one leader. They desired a warrior king. To Inanna, the adversary of Marduk, the task of the right man to find they entrusted. A strong man whom on her journey she had met and loved, Inanna indicated to Enlil. Arbakad of 4 garrisons, the commander, was his father. A high priestess his mother was. Scepter and crown Enlil gave him. There you go. There's your other proof. We see the scepter and crown coming down from royalty that the Queen of England and all royalty has to this day, the scepter and crown. That right there is the initiation of making someone who was an offspring of the gods in a position of royalty and power. That's why we have succession of royalty and hereditary dictatorships all over the planet today. Everyone that we still have that's still intact to this day goes back to that very moment when the offspring of the Anunnaki were put into positions of kingship and power based on their DNA and their bloodline. This is where the establishment of the bloodlines that are in place today by the elite who stay in power because of this bloodline, this is it. Sharukan, righteous regent, Enlil appointed him. As on Nibiru, as was once done on Nibiru, a new crown city to unify the lands was established. Agade, the unified city, they named it. Not far from Kishi, it was located. By Enlil and Sharukan empowered, Inanna accompanied his warriors with her weapons of brilliance. All the lands from the lower sea to the upper sea gave obedience to his throne. At the borders of the 4th region, to protect it, his troops were stationed. With a cautious eye on Inanna, Ra and Shuriken constantly gazed. Then, as a falcon on his prey, he pounced. From the place where Marduk was reaching the Tower of Heaven, had attempted to build the tower reaching heaven, Shuriken moved sacred soil from there to Agade, to therein implant the heavenly bright object. Now, this is interesting. Now, as we talked about the other night, I think this heavenly bright object, it may be the Ark of the Covenant. Because he talked about moving it, or at first planting it in the ground, and the location that they described was in Africa. And that's where many people to this day believe that it still is, even though it's been proven that it's not. But here it's being moved to somewhere else. And each time these Anunnaki are moving it around, and they're moving it to a different land and burying it under the ground. Enraged, Marduk rushed to the first region. With Nabu and followers to the tower's place they came. Of the sacred soil, I alone am the possessor. By me, the gateway of the gods shall be established. Bow, chicky, bow, bow, baby. You hear that? Oh, snap. That is a hell of a fucking admission right there, folks. You know what that means, right? Oh, yeah. That means that if that is true, what they've described here is this heavenly bright object is, in fact, the Ark of the Covenant, which many people have described as a power source. That means that by this description, wherever this Ark of the Covenant is located, in that spot, you can build, wherever you have it, once you build it underground, you can build a gateway of the gods. And we know that a gateway of the gods, as their earlier descriptions entailed, is a stargate. This confirms what I've thought about for years and heard about for years through tidbits and pieces, that that's indeed what they were looking for in Iraq during the invasion in 2003, because apparently Saddam Hussein, I mean, all the places we're talking about here, and Babylon, all this stuff, I mean, that's the heart of Iraq, y'all. I mean, Saddam Hussein was digging up all this stuff. He got wind of all this information. He was put in as a puppet by us. But he started researching the history. He started finding out about this stuff that was there. And, dude, he was in power. But that's a hell of an admission right there. I mean, I've never really put that together. And I haven't heard, I sure as fuck hadn't heard them talk about that on Agent Aliens, have y'all? They probably will now. Supocalypse will probably get up there and go, I was the first to talk about the Ark of the Covenant being a power source for the Ark of the Covenant. And I fell asleep in the tanning bed again. God damn it. But seriously, that's exactly what that's saying there. So if it's true that the Ark of the Covenant now is in Yemen, and according to Gary Vay and other people who've gone, there's a lot of, in my opinion, that's where it's at. And as soon as I started finding out about it, I told you that'll be the next threat. That'll be where they'll tell us Al Qaeda is next. That was in the fall of 2009, back when I was still in Oracle. When those shows are up, you can listen to those. When we did a whole show on that, and all our listeners started going out and trying to find different information on the Ark of the Covenant in Yemen. And lo and behold, just about 3 months later, we had the alleged underwear bomber, the crotch bomber that allegedly was going to blow up the plane with a crotch bomb that wouldn't have worked anyway. But point of the matter is, they told us he came from Yemen. And we've started to see Obama bomb attacks and rocket attacks not too long after that. And the people of Yemen have been trained generationally for thousands of years, going back to the brick and stone and, spear days. They have been trained generationally there to protect Sheba's palace, where the Ark of the Covenant is. And it says that the Ark of the Covenant can only be brought out when a friendly nation is overhead, as if this thing knows. So that's why they're over there, and they're sending back all these stories. Oh, Yemen's terrible. They're Al Qaeda stronghold, and their children, 8-year-olds, have AK-47s over there with Smurf stickers on them. The 8-year-olds have AKs, and yeah, the 8-year-olds have AKs because they have been trained generationally for thousands of years to protect what is there. Not to go out and kill white people because they hate them for our freedoms. They hate us for our freedoms. They're damn Al-Qaeders. I hate them all. I want to nuke them, turn them into a glass parking lot right now. I hate them. No, man. They're protecting something that is there, and these motherfuckers know full well what's there. If there's nothing to it, how come there's been a military naval blockade? Fact. All off the coast of Yemen since 2009. Just sitting there, parked. We've got cruisers, battleships, a whole fleet of naval ships parked off the coast of Yemen since 2009. This is a huge revelation for me. The idea that whatever this is buried in the ground, this is what the heavenly bright object, power source, allows them to open up this gateway of the gods, where instead of having to wait or take a ship or anything else, Anunnaki can come through the gate and then go back through it. Of the sacred soil, I alone am the possessor. By me shall a gateway of the gods be established. So Marduk, Ra, did vehemently announce. Did you guys ever see Stargate, the first movie? Stargate? They ripped that whole goddamn movie straight out of this. Straight out of this. If you've never seen the first Stargate movie, not the TV show and all that crap, but the first, the one with Kurt Russell, if you haven't seen that movie, go back and watch it because, dude, that is what that movie is about. That's what it is. And Ra is like this. They if you watch, he's like he's undoubtedly an alien. He has the metal suit that comes out on the outside of him that makes him look like, an animal, like what is depicted in the Egyptian drawings. But then when he wants to come out, he comes out and his eyes glow. Yeah, and he's on like a ship, and on the ship they've got a exactly the technology that they described last night that we talked about. The technology that the Anunnaki did not give to humans for regeneration. That it was was immortality machine. If somebody's dead, it'll bring them back. That's in the movie. I mean, I knew when the times when I saw that movie that they were riffing on, real stuff. But my God, the connection between Ra, that's who the main guy is in that movie that's doing all this stuff, Ra, and he's in a parallel world. And they figure out how to jump to this parallel world using this ancient Stargate that was dug out through an archaeological discovery. Man, they took that shit straight out of the Sumerian text, man. I watched that movie about, 7 or 8 months ago, but I want to watch it again now. That's unbelievable. I mean, we've seen examples, they always fictionalize the truth, so the truth seems like fiction. That's what science fiction is there to do, the sole intent and purpose of it. But, I mean, now I'm thinking about it, my God, they took that entire movie straight out of these Sumerian texts. That is mind-blowing. So Marduk did vehemently announce he was the only one to set up the Stargate. He gave instructions to divert his followers to the river. They raised dikes and walls in the place of the tower, the Asagel, the house of the utmost god, for Marduk they built. Babili, the gateway of the gods, Nabu, in his father's honor, named it Babylon, the gateway of the gods. In the heart of the Eden, in the midst of the first region, Marduk established himself. Inanna's fury knew no bounds. With her weapons, she inflicted death on Marduk's followers. The blood of people as never before on earth flowed like rivers. To his brother Marduk, Nergal came to Babili. For the sake of the people of Babili to leave, he tried to persuade them. Let us peacefully wait for the true signs of heaven, Nergal said to his brother. Marduk agreed to depart, and from land to land he watched the skies as he traveled. Amun, the unseen one in the second region, was henceforth called Ra. Okay. So that's when we start to see Amun Ra come in. So Amun, the unseen one in the second region, was Ra henceforth. So he became Amun. That's interesting. He was Ra first. Then he went to another land and watched over that land from the skies. And as he went to the second region, the first region being the Eden, he went to the second region, which we know was still Egypt, went back there and watched from the skies. So that's interesting. So essentially what these guys did, that's choice. That's choice. They faked their own deaths. They told their followers after they set up their societies that they had died and gone on to the afterlife, but they didn't die and go on to the afterlife. They went to another region and went up in their ships and watched over their area from the sky. That's genius. That's genius. For a while, Inanna was appeased. Two sons of Sharukan were his peaceful successors. Then on the throne of Agade Shuriken's grandson ascended, Naram Sin. By Sin Loved, he was called. Sin Loved was this guy named. This guy was named Sin Loved. In the first region, Ninurta and Enlil were absent. They had went to the lands beyond the oceans. In the second region, Ra was away. He traveled to other lands as Marduk. So this guy's going around, what a pimp. He's going to these other lands. Hello, I am Marduk. I have returned. Worship me. Here I am. Okay, Marduk is off to die again. Maybe he will return one day. Until I return, though, worship me, because I'm going to return one day. And all of you unbelievers who didn't believe I was coming back, hellfire and brimstone for you bitches. All right, peace, I'm out. Then he flies over to some other region. Hello, I am Ra. I've returned. Yes, I am your great God, Ra, the one true God. I've returned. You thought I was dead, but I have returned. Guess what? Any of you bitches that didn't believe in me, didn't believe I was coming back, guess what you're going to get? Yep. Hellfire and brimstone, motherfucker. That's ridiculous. This is your religion, ladies and gentlemen. This is your religion right here. He's just fucking rolling all the time. Yeah, I'm Ra. Yeah, that's me. Yeah. Oh, you don't believe in me?
Suck Satan's cock.
Her chance was in her hands to seize all power, and Nana envisioned to seize all lands of Naram Sin, the lands that she commanded. To march against Megan and Malua, Marduk domains, she instructed the Naram Sin. The sacrilege of an earthling's army through the fourth region passing Naram Sin was committed. He invaded Megan, the sealed Ikur house, which like a mountain is, and attempted to enter. By the sacrileges and transgressions, Enlil was infuriated. Upon Naram Sin and Agade, he put a curse. By a bite of a scorpion, Naram Sin did die. By the command of Enlil was Agade wiped out. At the count of 1,500 years on earth, this did happen. Now this is the account of the prophecy by Galziu given to Enlil in a vision about Marduk's supremacy and how man chose to survive a calamity. After Marduk became Amun, as in Amun-Ra, Amen-Ra, the monotheistic sun god of Egypt, who brought about the one God system that all religions are based on to this day. Kingship in the major religions, kingship in the second region disintegrated, disorder and confusion reigned. After Agade was wiped out, in the first region there was disorder, confusion reigned. In the first region, kingship was in disarray. From cities of gods to cities of man, it moved about. Unag-Ki, Lagash, Urim, and Kish, Isin, and to faraway places, kingship was shifting. Then Enlil consulted with Anu and deposited the kingship in the hands of Nanar. To Urim, in whose soil the divine heavenly bright object remained implanted, kingship was granted for the third time. In Urim, a righteous shepherd of men, Nanar as king was appointed. Ur-Namu was his name. Like Ur, the name of the area, Ur. Equity in the lands Ur-Namu established. He made an end to violence and strife in all lands. Prosperity was abundant. It was at that time, in the nighttime, that Enlil had a dream vision. The image of a man appeared to him, bright and shining like the heavens he was. As he approached and stood by Enlil's bed, Enlil recognized the white-haired Galzu. In his left hand, a tablet of lapis lazuli he was holding. The starry heavens were designed on it. By the 12 constellation signs, the heavens were divided. To them, with his left hand, Galzu pointed. From the bull to the ram, Galzu shifted his pointing finger. 3 times the pointing he repeated. Then, in the dream vision, Galzu spoke up to Enlil and said, "The righteous time of benevolence and peace by evil doing and bloodshed will be followed. In 3 celestial portions, the ram of Marduk, the bull of Enlil will replace. One who himself has declared as a supreme God will seize supremacy on earth. A calamity that has never before occurred by fate decreed will happen. As at the time of the deluge, a righteous and worthy man must be chosen. By him, his seed will preserve civilized mankind as by the Creator of all intended to be preserved." So did Galzu, the divine emissary, say to Enlil in the dream vision. When Enlil from the nighttime awakened from the dream vision, there was no tablet beside his bed. Was it an oracle of heaven, or did I all in my heart imagine it? Enlil wondered to himself. To none of his sons, none are among them, did Enlil tell of the dream vision he had had. Among the priests in the Nibiru Ki temple of celestial savants, Enlil inquired. Tirhu, an oracle priest, indicated him to the high priest. Of Ibru of Abarkad, the grandson, he was descended. 6th generation of Nibiru Ki priests he was. With the royal daughters of Urim's, they were intermarried with the kings. Get yourself to Nanar's temple in Urim and observe the heavens for the celestial time. 72 earth years is the count of a celestial portion. The passage of 3 thereof record carefully. So did Enlil say to Tahiru the priest. He made him count the prophesied time. While Enlil pondered the portents of the dream vision, Marduk went from land to land. Yeah, he's going around setting himself up as shop, setting himself up as a god everywhere. Amun-Ra over here, Quetzalcoatl over here. He's going around setting up shop everywhere. Of his supremacy, he was telling the people to gain followers was his purpose. In the lands of the upper sea, in the lands of the Ki-Engi border, Nabu, Marduk's son, was inciting the people. To seize the 4th region was his plan. Between the dwellers of the west and the dwellers of the east, clashes were occurring. Kings of hosts of warriors formed. Canvas ceased going, and the walls of cities were raised. What Galzu had foretold indeed is happening, Enlil said to himself. Upon Tiru and his sons descended a worthy lineage. Enlil set his gaze. This is the man to choose. By Galzu indicated, Enlil said to himself. To Nanar, without revealing the dream vision, Enlil thus said to his son, in the land between the rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, ancient Mesopotamia, Arbakad had come. Establish a city like Urim. A home abode away from Urim, let it be for you, and Ningal. In its midst, establish a temple shrine, and appoint the priest Prince Tirhu to be in charge thereof. By his father's words abiding, Nanar in the land of Arbakad, the city of Haran, established. To be high priest in its temple shrine, Tirhu he sent. His family he sent with him. When 2 celestial portions out of the prophesied 3 were completed, Tirhu went to Haran. At that time, Namu, the joy of Urim in the western lands, fell from his chariot and died. On the throne of Urim was his son Shulgi, who succeeded him, full of vile and eager for battles. Shulgi was. In Nibiru-Ki, he anointed himself high priest. In Unag-Ki, he sought the joys of Anana's vulva. Straight up with it right there. Yeah. So this is Mr. Big Nuts, what we ought to call him. Shulgi. S-H-U-L-G-I, Shulgi. Shulgi comes in and is like, all right, let's fuck some shit up. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I want to fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you. I want to fight, I want to fight, I want to fight. Fuck you, fuck you. I'm going to get me some of Anana's vulva. He sought the joys of Anana's vulva. That's going to be my new pickup line. Excuse me, miss. Hi, how you doing? I'm seeking the joys of your vulva. I want to go back to my place. You might actually get some with that one. A chick would probably be so thrown off. I'm interested in the joys of your vulva. Yeah, you think you might be interested in that? Warriors from the mountain lands, not beholden to Nanar, in his army he enlisted. With their help, he overran the western lands, and he ignored the sanctity of the mission control center. In the sacred 4th region, he set his foot. He declared himself king of the 4 regions. About the defilements, Enlil was angered. He spoke to Enki about the invadings. The rulers of your region have exceeded all bounds, Enki said bitterly to Enlil. Of all the troubles, Marduk is the fountainhead, Enlil retorted to Enki. Still, the dream vision, keeping to himself, Enlil turned his attention to Nirhu. Upon Ibiru, the eldest son of Tirhu, Enlil cast the choosing gaze. A princely offspring, valiant and with priestly secrets, acquainted Ibram was. Ibram was. This is where I think Abraham came from. Ibram. So he was a priest that was familiar with priestly secrets that came from the Anunnaki. Funny how it's always those types that set up religions, isn't it? I'm not totally convinced. You talked about Mormonism. I'm not totally convinced that. That is what Joseph Smith claimed. He had what you would call a spiritual, like an extraterrestrial experience. Yeah, and he was chosen as the one to bring those out because of his bloodline, because he was of that bloodline that came from the Anunnaki. That's why he was chosen to bring it out. All religions are like this, folks. All religions of the world come from these people. To protect the sacred places, enable the chariot's ascents and descents, Enlil commanded Ibram to go. No sooner did Ibram from Haran depart than in that city Marduk arrived. The defilements he too had observed. As birth pangs of a new order, he deemed them. From Haran, on the threshold of Shumer, his final thrust he planned. From Haran, at the edge of Ishkar's domain situated, he directed the raising of armies. When 24 Earth years of his sojourn had passed in Haran, Marduk made a tearful appeal to the other gods or whomever else had descended, confessing his transgressions, but insisting on his lordship. He said to them thus, O gods of Haran, O great gods who judge, learn my secrets. As I girdle my belt, my memories I remember. I am the divine Marduk, a great god. In my domains I am known as Ra. For my sins to exile I went. To the mountains I have gone, in many lands I have wandered. From where the sun rises to where the sun sets, I went. To the land of Ishkur I came. 24 years in the midst of Haran I nested, an omen in its temple I sought. Until when, about my lordship, an omen in the temple I asked. Your days of exile are completed, to me the oracle in the temple said. O great gods who determine the fates, let me set my course to my city. My temple Esagil has an everlasting abode to establish, a king in Babylon install. To my temple house, let all the Anunnaki gods assemble and accept my covenant. So did Marduk, confessing and appealing, announce to the other gods his coming. By his appeal for their submission, the Anunnaki gods were disturbed and alarmed. To a great assembly take counsel, Enlil summoned them all. All the Anunnaki leaders in the Nibiru Key gathered. Enki and Marduk's brothers also came. They were all agitated about the happenings and opposed to Marduk and Nabu they all were. In the council of the great gods, accusations were rampant. Recriminations filled the chamber. What is coming, no one can prevent. Let us accept Marduk's supremacy, Enki alone counseled. If the time of the ram is coming, let us deprive Marduk of the bond of heaven and earth. Enlil proposed in anger. So they're saying he's got the bond of heaven and earth. He's got control of the Stargate. So they're saying, let's take that away from him. To obliterate the place of the celestial chariots, all except Enki agreed. To use, therefore, the weapons of terror that Nergal suggested, only Enki was opposed. Of the decision, Earth to Anu pronounced the words. Anu to Earth repeated the words. What was destined to be by your decision to undo will fail, so did Enki say as he departed. The evil thing to carry out Ninurta and Nergal were selected. So that's the area where they're talking about using this weapon of terror, a nuclear weapon. They're talking about using that in the area where Ra was empowered, and that was the area of Egypt. And it's interesting that out there in the desert, we have all this yellow glass that the Egyptians later used to carve out scarabs and things out of. It does indicate there was some sort of high energy, intense blast in that area. The 14th tablet. Babili, where Marduk declared supremacy, it was spared by the evil wind. All the land south of Babili, the evil wind devoured. The heart of the second region it also touched. When in the aftermath of the great calamity, Enlil and Enki surveyed the havoc and met. Enki considered to Enlil the sparing of Babili as a divine omen. That Marduk has been destined to supremacy by the sparing of Babili is also confirmed, so did Enki say to Enlil. The will of the creator of all it must have been, Enlil said to Enki. Then to him the dream vision and the prophecy of Galzu, Enlil revealed. If that by you was known, why did you not prevent the use of the weapons of terror? And Enki asked him. My brother, Enlil to Enki with a solid voice said, enough seen was the reason. But after your coming to Earth, the mission was obstructed by an obstacle, a way to circumvent the obstruction we have found. Of that, the fashioning of the earthlings was the greatest solution. Also, the fountain of a myriad unwanted twists and turns it was. When you have fathomed the celestial cycles and assigned the constellations, who in them could foresee the hands of destiny? Who could between our chosen fates and our unbending destiny distinguish? Who proclaims false omens? Who could pronounce these true prophecies? Therefore, to keep to myself the words of Galzu, I decided. Was he truly the creator of all's emissary? Was he my hallucination? Let whatever has to happen, happen. So to myself, I said. Enki listened to his brother's words. He held his head up and down and he nodded. The first region is desolate. The second region is in confusion. The third region is wounded. The place of the celestial chariots is no more. This is what has happened, Enki said to Enlil. If that was the will of the creator of all, that is what has remained of what our mission to Earth. By the ambitions of Marduk, the seed was sown. What the crop has resulted is for him to reap. So he's saying, Marduk, Ra, who was also, Enki, Quetzalcoatl, also possibly Jesus, many people have said. He's saying that, this was his ambitions that caused all this, so he's the one that has to deal with all this. Is that possibly where, Jesus having the weight of man on his shoulders and all this stuff, is that possibly where that comes from? He died for our sins, blah, blah, blah. Is that where that comes from? So did Enlil say to his brother Enki that he accepted the triumph of Marduk. Let the rank of 50 by me intended for Ninurta be given to Marduk instead. Let Marduk have supremacy over the desolation in the regions of his supremacy, he declared. As for me and Ninurta, we will in his way stand no longer. To the lands beyond the oceans we will depart for what we had all come for. The mission to obtain for Nibiru the gold we will complete. So Enlil did say to Enki with dejection in his words. Would matters have been different were the weapons of terror not used, Enki challenged his brother. Should we had not heeded the words of Galzu and returned to Nibiru, Enlil retorted. Should the Earth mission have been stopped when the Anunnaki mutinied? I did what I did, and you did what you did. The past cannot be undone. Is not in that, too, a lesson? Enki asked them both. Is not what on Earth happened what mirror what had taken place on Nibiru? Is not in that tale of the past the outline of the future written? Will mankind in our image created repeat our attainments and our failures? Enlil was silent as he stood up to leave. Now, see, that's it. That's what I've been hinting at this whole entire time. Is that the point of this information is that we don't go and fuck up our planet the way they fucked theirs up by allowing all these things to happen, yet we are, because this information is being presented to us as fiction and not fact. Specifically in the West. In other parts of the world, I don't know, maybe it's more accepted, but here in the United States, they are selling this and marketing to this as utter fiction and science fiction to us and totally made up. And not in any way, in shape, or form, in any way that any of this might possibly be true. and even go so far as to not even alert people that these Sumerian texts are real. And according to an article that DJ had put in the chat room earlier, 140,000 archives have gone, 140,000 pieces of antiquities from these ancient Anunnaki Sumerian civilizations, 140,000 ancient relics officially recorded as having been stolen or destroyed since the U.S. invasion in spring of 2003. You're honestly going to tell me that all that's just coincidence and none of this stuff really means anything? It's just made up hubbub by Zechariah Sitchin and none of these antiquities hold any of this stuff? Well, I got news for you. Of those 140,000 antiquities, most of those are cylinder seals, clay tablets. I mean, we need to know this information so we don't repeat what they have done on their planet and here on Earth. And we are repeating that. We are going to repeat it again. Why? Why? Because we're too goddamn lazy and too goddamn stupid to think for ourselves. We're going to let the priest class and religion and government dictate to us what we think and what we believe because we're afraid of what other people are going to think about us. I hate to have to admit that might be a possible outcome for us, but goddamn it, it looks like it might be. But I'm going to do my goddamnedest to make sure it's not that way. You understand? Enlil was silent as he stood up to leave, and Enki extended his arm to him. Let us lock arms as brothers, as comrades who together confronted challenges on an alien planet. So Enki did say to his brother Enlil. And Enlil, grasping his brother's arms, hugged him as well. Shall we meet again on Earth or on Nibiru? Enki asked. Was Galzu right that we die if we go to Nibiru? Enlil responded. Then he turned and departed. Alone, Enki was left. He was accompanied only by the thoughts of his heart. How it all began and how it thus far ended, he sat and pondered. Was it all destined, or was it fate by this and that decision fashioned? If heaven and earth cycles within cycles are regulated, what happened will occur again. Is the past the future? Will the earthlings emulate the Anunnaki? Will the earth relive Nibiru? It looks like we're going that way, doesn't it? All the government buildings, folks, all the power, position of government are built as tribute to the temples of the gods. I mean, don't you see this now? Will he, the first to arrive, be the last to leave? Besieged by thoughts, Enki made a decision to put all of the events and all of the decisions, starting with Nibiru to this day on Earth, in a record to be a guide for future generations to come. Let posterity at a time by destiny designated read the record. Well, guess what? Let posterity at a time by destiny designated. Well, guess when that is? That's right now, ladies and gentlemen. And the whole time I've been reading this. Let posterity at a time by destiny designated right now. Read the record. Remember the past. Understand the future as prophecy. Let the future of the past be the judge. These are the words of Enki, firstborn of Anu of Nibiru. The words of the Lord Enki, the 14th tablet, written from the mouth of the great Lord Enki. Not one word missed, not one word added, by the master scribe in Dubsar, a man of Eridu, son of Udbar. By the Lord Enki, with long life, I have been blessed. That means he's had his DNA changed, so he's now immortal. That's what that means. And that's it. That's it. That concludes our reading of the Lost Book of Enki. I'll be making a decision pretty soon on what my next thing to read is going to be, and I'll let you know. We'll start that soon in an upcoming broadcast.